Begin with that wild fight in Glastonbury that ended up getting a school official punched.
You're having a closed meeting. It's illegal. It's breaking the law.
We're gonna make sure the school system crumbles. I am your master, you are the servants.
One contentious issue, charter schools. The charter school movement gained steam in the U.S. in the early 1990s.
Public school education is under fire, accused of bloated bureaucracies and failure to adequately teach America's youngsters.
A charter school is a public school that is funded through tax dollars but is governed by a private board.
Have more autonomy to be able to have a more flexible budget and make different academic decisions.
The idea was that teachers and parents could get together and they could provide a model of schooling that was a little bit different than what existed in the district, and then they would share ideas with the district. Right now, we're operating parallel school systems. At some point, it's going to break. One of the things that folks don't seem to realize about charter schools is that, like a business, many of them fail.
On average, when you look across the country, traditional public schools and charters score around the same. Charters don't outperform traditional public schools. How do you sort of push for growth of charters when we don't know they're any better than traditional public schools?
Why are parents choosing charters? Nobody's forcing them to go to a charter school. Parents are making these decisions, not bureaucrats, not me, not you. Parents are choosing these alternatives.
What do you say to those who say that they want to give families like yours school choice?
That kind of angers me when I'm hearing that so much now. Choice. It's a choice. This was my choice. If you close all the public schools in your area and you pop up 2 or 3 charter schools, what is the choice? You have no choice. When charters first came to the city, it was like, don't send your children to filthy public schools. Go to nice charter schools, nice academies. Our children are dressed in uniform. Our children walk on blue lines. And it was more of to me, a prison or jail mentality, not really open to parent input and involvement. Just get the dollars, get the kids. And even if our school fails, we can close down and open another one in another name. It's a business.
Recently, I made a video on Instagram talking about why I truly do not understand why people put their kids in charter schools, because it is literally one of the worst places to put your kids, and a lot of people were not happy. Let me just start off this video by saying I said what I said, I meant what I said, and I'll say it again. But most importantly, I'm very well aware that a majority of schools in the United States are fucking garbage, and the United States education system is so bad that it just needs a complete overhaul completely. But as I like to say in a majority of my videos, I like to keep things to one topic. I don't like to veer off and be like, okay, well, this is this and this is that. We're talking about charter schools today. So let's get into it.
It's not a game, it's a rich thing.
What up, everybody? I am the Mademoiselle, and this is my channel. Welcome to another video. Today, we're going to be talking about charter schools and how they're utter fucking garbage. I think that's a little bit better. I didn't know how I wanted to go about this video, but I realized that it is a video that needs to be made. I had the urge to make this video right now, even though it is not in line with my regular scheduled programming. So I do hope you enjoy it. Before we get started, comment down below. Did you go to a charter school? Have you worked at a charter school? Did you love it? Did you hate it? If you went to a good charter school, comment them down below so the people inquiring can understand that there are some good charter schools out there. Disclaimer, understand, I'm not talking about all charter schools. If this video was about public schools, no one would be sitting there like, oh, well, you can't generalize all the charters. Y'all would be sitting here like,
Yeah, the public schools are horrible. That's why I put my kids in the charter.
So I don't want to hear that shit, okay? The bias shit, it gotta go. This is my channel and I speak from experience. I've worked at numerous different charters, publics, private organizations, independent schools, etc., on different types of capacities and levels, from W-2, salary, contract. I quit 2 charter schools. The only reason I didn't stay at any of the other schools was because of contracts. A majority of the schools in the United States are having issues with funding, and the first thing to go is the arts. I am a dance educator. I did not want to teach English. I did not want to teach core. It was a horrible experience. I did it very briefly. I was like, I don't know how the fuck y'all do it. And I'm still struggling in dance because the kids just, that's another video for another time, like, talking about how parents really are not doing the work anymore. And that's the overall issue. I understand the education system in the United States is garbage, period. It's a multifaceted issue. We're going to kick off the series with the charters because that's what I know the most about. That's where I've been the most in my personal opinion, I think the charter schools are probably some of the worst. I have so many story times on the Newark charter that I worked at, as well as this Brooklyn charter that I just quit. Everything's gonna be linked down below. Some of my best story time work to date, all right? Also, follow me on Instagram for dance content. I do have LakayRo's page up there. I'm starting to post tutorials and informational things about Haitian dance. Shout out to those of you guys who have been supporting and showing up to the classes. Also, for those of you guys who are in North Jersey, primarily near the Newark area, we are starting a youth dance company in September. If you'd like to join, everything you need is going to be in this lovely QR code. Thank you guys again so much for the support. Follow me on Instagram for more. Thank you guys so much. But most notably, if you donate to LakayRo, thank you so very much. Every donation counts.
Charter schools are awful and they should be no longer a thing in America. Do not send your kids to charter school. Don't do it. They're a hot mess. And there's certain protocols that they do not have to follow by, and they do not have our children's best interest at heart.
All charter schools are bad, even the good ones. I know there are good charter schools. I actually taught at one for a couple months. I loved my colleagues. I love my students. That doesn't change the fact that charter schools take public money intended for the public good and use it for a small, select subgroup of students.
I actually started this conversation years ago on this channel when I dragged one of the first charter schools that I worked at. I believe this probably would have been like the second or the third. The first charter I worked at was actually amazing. I love that charter. I will always recommend it. And the name of that charter is Englewood Public Charter Schools in Englewood, New Jersey. Love the system, love the principal, love the teachers, love the staff, lovely school, lovely students. Like, honestly, I was like, yo, this is great. If this is what charter schools are all about, then like I'm here for it. And let me just say before I move on to the rest of this video, that is the only school I'm going to be mentioning. I'm not going to mention any of these charter networks because a lot of them like to fearmonger and sue. A lot of them like to come at you with the, oh, well, you know, don't talk about us, don't say this, da, 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 without blah, blah, blah. There are going to be some charters, I don't know yet, do not quote me on it. There's going to be some charter school networks I choose to do a deep dive on, but I'm not sure which ones yet. But all in all, we're going to keep this very general, although a lot of the clips that I insert will be talking specifically about specific charters in specific regions, specific schools. I'm going to keep this very surface level in regards to what I'm talking about. Honestly, I only worked at one really good charter. The rest of them I cannot recommend. And it breaks my heart because, as many of you guys watching this know, most people end up in charter schools because their public schools are garbage and their public schools have dropped the ball. Charter schools have always been seen as a safer and a better alternative to public schools. However, that's not really the case. There is so much chaos going on in charter schools, the same exact things going on in public schools. That's why I never really understand, like, when anyone brings up this conversation, people are always like, oh, well, it's happening in public schools too. It's happening in public schools. That's why people chose to put their kids in charter schools, and it's happening there too. That's a problem. The problem is that it is happening at charters because people are trying to avoid what was going on in the public schools. Charter schools are still public schools, but they are ran differently. They have different sets of rules. That kind of skews the accountability. They answer to different systems. Their funding is different. Sometimes, a lot of the time, actually, they don't have as much funding. A lot of times, you know, you have people that argue that the charter schools are actually taking money from the public schools, and that's why the public schools are going broke. That debate is a whole nother story for a whole nother time. I'm not going to get too much into that, but comment down below what you guys think about that aspect.
Charter schools don't work. I know you really want them to work, and I know that they seem like a good idea, just like school choice seems like a good idea, but it's not going to work. It doesn't work, and it will not work. And the more we shift towards charter and school choice, which is such a dumb name, the more our public schools will be drained and impacted. And overall, that will create a greater class divide in the United States. So it's not a failure of a system. This is exactly the way it's planned to be. It's working out exactly the way they planned it, but you're helping them. Charter schools are not really run by people who are experts in education. They are boards of directors. They are operated as a business. And unlike public schools, taxpayers who are still funding these schools, taxpayers have no say in what's going on. And when you do realize that something bad is going on or something you're just concerned about, there's little to no transparency with what's happening and why, because they simply don't owe it to you. Your public school does have transcripts of their school board meeting, and they're required to. Charter schools are inherently discriminatory towards minoritized students. And I know you might be thinking, oh, but there's so many charter schools that are for Black communities. Yes, that's true, but they are still discriminatory towards minoritized communities.
Charter schools. See, why are charter schools failing our children? let's talk about it for a minute. See, charter schools are supposed to be the future of education, but are they actually worse than public schools? See, here's why parents are getting fed up with how they run these charter schools. One is all about money. See, these schools run like businesses, so it's profit over students. There's no real accountability. They don't follow the same rules as a public school, so who's really checking on them? There's underqualified teachers. See, many charter schools hire anyone with a degree, not real educators. So there's a high turnover rate. Teachers and staff are leaving constantly. So how is our children able to get a stable education? See, they pick and choose students. So if your child is struggling or special needs, they would quietly push them out. Lack of resources. See, 99% of all the charter schools that we deal with here in New York, they all rent from public school, and they are in existing public school buildings. So they're not really creating an educational environment on their own. And they are overworking these teachers. They are underpaid, crazy hours. No wonder why these teachers are quitting left and right. There's no real improvement. See, studies show charter schools aren't even better than public schools, but they want to be better than public schools. And not to mention their discipline is out of control. Strict rules, random punishment. The kids are stressed out. And the fact that the kids are stressed out is stressing the parents out. I don't know about you, but here in New York, they have a color grading system. Red, yellow, green. Red, yellow, green. Could you imagine the pressure that is being put on these children to not get a yellow, not get a red? I know the pressure because my kids were going through it. So it's not a school, it's a business. So at the end of the day, the charter schools are more concerned about making money than making better students.
And what charters do is they pull money from their public school districts who have to legally serve everyone, and they use that money for a small group of students. And what's even worse is in most states, wherever that student starts this school year, that school keeps the money. So if a charter school has kids start in September, they get that funding for the student. Even if they kick the kid out in October, November, that money does not follow the kid back to their public school. I'll be the first to admit that public education has problems, but let's fix those issues instead of pulling money away from the public school system and then being surprised that they're still not doing better. Fully fund public education and you will see a difference.
People tell me all the time that because their kids attend a nonprofit charter school, they're not worried about whatever issue they're seeing in the news. I'm a former education policy analyst who worked in the charter startup space for years. I want to explain the business of charter schools and why being a nonprofit doesn't mean everyone is inherently good. It's especially important to understand as the current administration has just redirected $500 million to charter schools. Let's talk about who else is nonprofits. Major healthcare companies like Kaiser and Accenture, whose CEOs make up to $30 million a year while defunding healthcare, implementing dangerously high ratios and underpaying nurses. The PGA Tour, the NFL until 2016, and mega churches whose pastors fly on private jets to their Hamptons homes. And while the charter school itself is a nonprofit, in many states, the charter schools partner with for-profit education management organizations or EMOs. EMOs often provide upfront funding for the charter school to get off the ground and basic services like accounting, HR, real estate, building maintenance. In exchange for this upfront funding, charter schools are required to work with the EMO's vendors, which in a lot of states are owned by the same people or family members of those who own the EMO. Funding and services are provided in exchange for a portion of the charter school's annual revenue, which comes from taxpayer dollars. EMOs and many other charter school vendors have been under public scrutiny for overcharging for services, inflated real estate price, underqualified staff writing curriculum, low student achievement results, complex financial transactions that are hard to track where taxpayer dollars are going, and conflicts of interest. This kind of corruption can happen in traditional public schools too, but traditional public schools are subjected to a public RFP process when selecting their vendors, designed to prevent inflated charges and conflicts of interest in these hard to track financial transactions. Most states don't require this of charter schools in the name of fast-moving innovation. As more money is being pumped into charter school systems, it's really important that we demand transparency for where our taxpayer dollars are going and work with our local state governments to close loopholes that allow things like this to happen, that prioritize profits over students.
Charter schools often face some of the same issues that public schools face. However, I am going to keep it to the charter schools. And a lot of the things that they deal with include budget cuts, understaffing, lack of compliance in many different areas, lack of discipline and or consequence, and uncertified teachers. These are the top 5 I'm going to cover, and these are the top 5 I'm going to keep it to, because if I keep going, I'm probably going to end up having to do a part 2, which, I mean, comment down below if by the end of this video, there's some things I did not cover. I'm sure there's going to be some things I completely forgot about and did not cover. So please do y'all thing down below, but I think I am going to have to do a part 2 about this, right? I'm going to be popping in and out of this video because I know there's a lot of things that I missed. So first things first, right? We already know a majority of these charter schools are dealing with a huge understaffing issue because a lot of these teachers are quitting. This is across the nation. However, in charter schools, it's worse because a majority of charter schools just hire any and everybody. And for the most part, they kind of always did. I feel like it's funny how a lot of people like to be like, well, you know, none of the teachers are staying anymore, so they have to hire anybody. That doesn't make it any better, but a majority of these charter schools do not have to follow the same rules and be held to the same standards as a standard public school, so they do just hire anyone. A lot of the times, these people did not go to school to be educators or be teachers. Sometimes they might have a bachelor's, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're just being brought in by a substitute company and they're just long-term sub, they're just a long-term sub, or they're permanent subs. What I'm saying in this portion of this video truly heavily relies, okay, and depends on the state that you live in. There are a lot of substitutes that are just picking up the slack, and they're being presented and being expected to act like full-time teachers, but they're not getting the full-time pay. They're not being trained, and it's not fair to them. This is something that's going on all over the country. But depending on your state, I know a lot of you guys are like, oh no, that doesn't make sense. They have to have 30 credits, 60 credits, 20 credits. They need to be certified. There are certain companies out there that will let you work as a substitute in a school without all of those requirements, okay? I'm very sure there's people, if you don't see them here, they're on my Instagram, they're on my Facebook, they're on my TikTok talking about, yeah, I accepted a position to be a day-to-day sub. Now I'm a full-time teacher for 4th grade. The stories are out there because this is what is happening. I need you guys as parents to be vigilant in your kids' education. You can't just sit there and have a kid and go to work and bring them to school and that's it. You have to reinforce. You have to read with them. You have to go to these meetings, these board meetings, these school meetings. I understand a lot of you guys have to work, but don't have kids if you don't have time. Again, don't have kids if you don't have time. If you know that you can't work a 9 to 5, come home, do homework with your child, reinforce, spend time with them. Don't fucking have kids. The reason I don't have kids is because I understand how much work a child is because I work with them. And I know if I had a kid today, I would not be able to pour into that child the way I need or want to be. I don't want to wonder what if. I don't want to tell my kid, oh, I can't. I don't want to tell my kid, oh, I can't afford that. I want to be settled and set. And yes, you're never 1,000% ready for your child, but I can be as prepared as I want and need to be to have one. Too many parents are not doing the work. This is why these schools are able to do whatever the fuck it is that they want to. And it's not okay. It will never be okay.
As a former Newark charter school teacher, I would never ever put my child in one of them schools unless they had an IEP or some type of disability that needed to be met, because I will put them in there for a couple months and then sue them. I'm somebody that came from public schools in like a nice town, and then I went to private school for high school, and then I went to college. So I will say I had a privilege to have access to quality education. However, I feel that that should not be a privilege. But when I went to the charter schools, because I used to teach in urban schools, like in a public, I'm like, okay, so charter schools is probably like a middle ground between a public and a private. No, no. It is the bottom of the bottom. I feel like it's not set up for the students, or staff, or the parent, like anybody to really succeed. I felt like I was working in a prison every day. Also, you know, they don't really have a lot of like reward systems. It's just like a bunch of punishment. I felt like I was like contributing to like the prison pipeline system. Like there was nothing for the kids that actually behaved. Everything was just like disciplinary. On top of, they're not requiring certifications for teachers, and they're not even giving them curriculums. At one point, like the first week of school came at the school I was at, and the schedule wasn't even finalized. Like, it's a mess. I could go on for hours.
Success Academy is literally the worst. When I was a teacher there, all of the veteran teachers called it Little Rikers. This school is operating as the authoritative figure in communities that have been historically over-policed, and we are indoctrinating and conditioning Black and brown kids to be surveilled and receive extraordinary disciplinary actions. And they go out into the community and they continue to be surveilled. Anyway, don't send your kids to Success Academy. You're going to traumatize them.
And when people tell their stories about working at a charter school, I always listen, because I interviewed to work at a charter school once as the front office lady. Nothing crazy, Nothing crazy. As the front office lady at a charter school, I go for my interview. It's like fine. It's like going good. But the vibe was just off. They give me a tour of the school and I was like, this feels like prison. Have I ever been to prison? No. Have I ever been to jail? No. But this feels not right. This does not feel like a school environment. We keep going through the whole thing and I left that place and I was like, I don't think I want that job there. So yeah, when people talk about charter schools on this app, I always listen because they're probably right.
Schools are awful and they should be no longer a thing in America. One, they hire uncredentialed teachers. At my first charter school I taught in the Bay, there was a teacher on an emergency permit for 5 years because they couldn't pass their CSATs for 5 years. Two, they take money from the public education system. So when they do that, like public schools get less money because some of it is allocated towards charter schools. Also, charter schools get to do pretty much whatever the heck they want. They can hire who they want. They can fire you at any time without any explanation. They're pretty toxic. Most of them have a strict uniform policy for students and staff, and they have like these weird codes of transitioning and conduct that almost seem like a prison organization. And finally, because they are awful schools for children who have disabilities or IEPs.
So I was doing two jobs for the prices of one. I was the basic skills instructor and the technology teacher. So as the basic skills instructor, I would like pull kids out of the classrooms, help them learn how to read. By the way, most of them didn't know how to read. And as the technology instructor, I was their computer teacher. And so one of the things that I would do is I would bring the iPad carts to the classrooms. And so one day, one of the teacher comes up to me and is like, Miss Gabby, Miss Montiel, what's going on with like our parental controls on the iPad? And I was like, why? Like, why do you ask? Like, that's not really up my alley. Like, that's like the IT guys, like they take care of all that stuff. Like, I don't really do anything with that kind of stuff. And they were like, because during free time the other day, mind you, this is a first grade classroom and kids can barely read, but they can look up this shit on the iPad. She caught one of her students looking at full-on corn. Yeah, I can't say it on here, but you know what that means. Yes. And so when I found this out, I was like, what? And so the next day, a couple days later, one of the IT guys is like in my computer room, in the computer lab, like fixing stuff, doing stuff with the servers, like techie stuff that I don't know about. And so I asked him about it and I'm like, hey, like this happened. Like, I feel like I should be aware of, what we have in as far as, parental controls for the kids and whatever on this stuff. I think that, what's going on? Like, how did this happen? And the IT tech guy proceeds to tell me that they don't want to pay for that. The CEO, she doesn't want to pay for that. And so we just don't have that. There were so many egregious things that I saw happen at this school, and that is just literally the tip of the iceberg.
No matter how you slice and dice it, public and charter schools have been seen as the downfall of the education system in the US because both of them have been doing their equal part in fucking the kids up. It's like you take your kids out of public to put them in a charter, and you take them out the charter to put them back in public. I've come across too many students who have went through that, where literally their parents put them in public, then put them in charter, and take them out the charter and put them back in public. I've seen so much of that. It needs to be talked about. That's why I started with the charter, because I feel like a lot of people who watch me are more familiar with the charter schools, especially if you are Black or lived in a Black neighborhood. If you guys are not aware, I went to Elizabeth High School. My parents put me in Catholic school. From pre-K to 8th, I was in Catholic school. From high school, I was actually in public school. And then for my master's and my bachelor's, I went to private school. What's very interesting is I hated Catholic school. I told my parents, they didn't care, they didn't listen. It bothers me because I had a lot of miserable experiences. I was bullied there. My experience in Catholic school was so traumatic, I don't remember a majority of it. Literally, I don't remember a majority of it because I'm very sure my brain blocked it out because it was that traumatic for me, right? And what really bothers me with the whole public versus charter versus da-da-da and this, that, and the third is that a lot of these kids are crying out for help. A lot of these kids are trying to tell their parents, I don't want to be here. I don't like this school. Or they don't speak out because a lot of these schools reward silence as good behavior. They're not trying to teach these kids to speak up for themselves and advocate for themselves. Speaking up for yourself can be seen as unruly, disrespectful, out of order, and you'll get written up or you'll get in trouble. You'll get sent to the principal's office or the director's office because a lot of these schools don't have real principals. That's one thing you guys need to know, what you're going to get into in a little bit. I've been doing a lot of videos regarding this topic on my Instagram, and there's so many people reaching out to me, like former students, like, hey, can you please talk to my mom or talk to my dad because I don't want to be here and my parents aren't listening to me. I have parents reaching out to me. I saw your video. I didn't know the school was that bad. I should have listened to my kid when they told me. I don't want to be that person. Don't be that parent that did not listen to your children and they told you the school was garbage.
My high school was ranked as the #1 high school in the country again, I think. And I wanted to come on here and give a giant warning to any parents or anyone else who thinks that they're doing their kid a service by putting them in a BASIS charter school because they see what BASIS puts out, which is test scores and numbers and all these amazing stories about success and blah, 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 and college acceptance rates and all these things, which are important. However, BASIS is disgusting. It's toxic. They will drain your kids of life, and they have no social life. They don't know how to interact normally with other kids. There is no reason that in 6th grade, I was up until midnight doing physics homework at 6th grade. I think charter schools in general are pretty disgusting, but especially BASIS, the way it preys on people. And as soon as you don't meet their standards of academic overachievement, they toss you out. They don't give a fuck about you. They actively try and get you out of that school because you're going to ruin their numbers. They do everything in their power to demean you, make you feel stupid, everything. I was at BASIS from 5th grade to 12th grade. I went to the original BASIS school. I know what I'm talking about, okay?
A kindergartner. No, it's okay, baby. You can cry. They all about to go get on their little buses right now. And my son couldn't go. But all them children that I've chaperoned before that I know act way worse than my child, he's not able to go. It's okay, baby. Mommy's going to take you to the wild animal safari. It's okay, baby. This is what y'all do to kindergartners. This is what y'all do. It's okay, baby, to cry. I know you don't like crying when mommy's recording you, but I'm doing this for a reason.
Stop exploiting y'all kids on the internet. Like, why are you putting a camera in your kid's face while they're crying? I'm sorry, moving on.
As I'm texting my daughter, trying to figure out what's going on, she's talking about they're going to search her phone. I'm trying to get on the phone to call them. My phone rings, and guess who it is? The interim principal, right? She's talking to me, telling me that they searched my daughter because the teacher said that she smelled like marijuana when she came back from using the restroom. Now, I'm not going to lie. The kids at the school, that's another thing with that. First of all, let's be clear. Back in September, when school started, I noticed changes in my daughter, and I'm not a dummy. And I reached out to the school because I'm like, these kids are getting high in their school. Just to let you know, like, I started searching my daughter. When she comes home, I search her. I check her. I check her bag. She's always coming back from school with a vape pen. Okay? So the kids are selling drugs at the school. Selling drugs at the school. They're selling vape pens. 8th graders, 7th graders. They're getting high. Your children are getting high at this charter school. I'm not going to say the name, but they're getting high. Okay? So that's a problem. And I'm the one that exposed it to the school. When I told the principal, do you think he did anything? No. We're now in February? Now they're taking action. They're looking into it. And their way of looking into it is searching all the kids. That's the way. They search the kids. If the kids have a vape pen, then they suspend them. That's the protocol. That don't make no sense, but okay.
So I went to go pick up my daughter today from school or whatever. Says I go pick her up, I get an email that dismissal's upstairs. So I'm like, okay, cool. I go upstairs, I go to the class. I guess a teacher was there with all the kindergartners, not her teacher specifically, but a different teacher was there with all the kindergartners. So I get my daughter's name, and she's calling her, but she can't find her. So I'm like, okay, cool. No issues. I don't panic or nothing like that. Her teacher must be somewhere else with her. So that's how I see it. So I'm like, okay, cool. I go on my phone, I try to find her teacher's name. So as I'm there scrolling on my phone, another parent pick up their daughter. So the parent comes, talks to the teacher, lets the teacher know her daughter's name. They didn't even introduce herself. They didn't even say, hello, how you doing, or nothing. Just to the point. Oh, your daughter's not going to excel here. We need to find another school for her. Yeah, just like a language barrier. She's not understanding. She's not learning. She's not learning. You have to out. It's that she was saying what she was saying to her, and I'm just there on my phone, but I'm listening. And I'm just on like, teacher, and you talking like this parent? Okay.
I hate to be the one to tell y'all, but I don't recommend sending your kid to a charter school. Now, obviously, there's always exceptions to any idea or challenge or whatever. However, I do not recommend that you send your black child to a charter school. Firstly, just from like a logistical level, charter schools receive funding just like any other school does. They receive funding from private donors. They receive some federal funding, and their funding is based on the data that they present based off of how well students are doing in school. The problem is in these charter schools, most of the time it is black and brown students. And there's an underlying belief that these black and brown students do not want to learn. So the charter school, on one end, tries to do everything that they can to extrinsically motivate the kids to learn and engage in their learning. But at the other end, there's a belief that these kids don't want to do that. And there's a frustration, and it causes a very intense, very like pressurized sort of environment that because you know that how well they do is connected to your funding, because you also have a belief that they don't want to learn, it causes you to strongly penalize them for misbehaviors. The average charter school doesn't necessarily have a system for rewarding positive behavior. What they do most of the time is they have like some sort of demerit system where it's like you lose points or dollars or whatever if you, and there's like a whole list of things, if you do this particular misbehavior or whatever. And for a lot of parents that sounds like, yeah, you keep my kid in check, good. No, the issue is it ends up perpetuating a very negative environment, and it makes it difficult for students to learn. Students learn a lot better if they have a positive, healthy relationship with the adults, if they have positive, healthy expectations from home. When those two work together, students are going to be motivated to learn. They're going to at least be at a place where they can be calm enough to feel safe in the environment that they're in. Now, when you think about Black people, when you think about Hispanic people and the different traumas that we've experienced as a result of being in this country, those things don't just magically disappear when they get inside the classroom.
The schools are actually that bad, and it gets way worse than you would ever know. You will ever really know how bad it is when you're actually in there. It doesn't matter if you had a good charter school experience or not. At the end of the day, it does not negate people's negative experiences. It doesn't negate the fact that a lot of people have legitimate trauma associated with charter schools or public schools or any school for that matter. So I do want you guys to share your stories, and I do want you, especially if you're a child and you're watching this, try to keep trying to explain to your parents, like, listen, I really don't like this school. Like, I really don't think I can thrive here. I do not think that this school is good for my future. Keep trying, because eventually something's going to hit the fan and they're going to have to listen. Budget cuts, budget cuts, budget cuts. We already know the state of the Department of Education in the United States is not going really well right now. So it's only going to get worse from here. They already never had money to give these schools, but now they really don't have money to give these schools. And charter schools, due to all of the controversy, a lot of the times they're really not the first to get funding, right? Now, there's a lot that goes into how charter school funding works. I'm going to put a video here that explains it better than I can. Understand, especially if you worked in a charter behind the scenes, you would know there's a lot of tea that goes on with that. So if you guys follow my personal channel, you would know a majority of what I'm about to tell y'all right now. A lot of these schools really don't be having the money. They be cutting programs, they cutting this, they cutting that. The charter that I worked at, and it's funny because this is not public information, but everybody knows this in the network that works at that network. My last CEO literally stole over $10 million. Okay. Took half the staff, opened his own shit, and has gotten away with it. I'm waiting for the Star Ledger or whatever to cover this shit because it's insane. And that's the type of stories you're going to hear when you enter almost any charter system. It's usually an inside thing, right? It's something that you hear people talking amongst themselves, like, oh, did you know the CEO left? That's why we don't have money for this. Or did you know the CFO embezzled funds? Or like you'll be talking to someone and they'll be like, yeah, I went to this charter school. They shut down due to embezzlement. Like, it happens so often that I think that's part of the reason why the budget cuts are happening as well, because a lot of these entities and organizations, the government, are starting to take a closer look and starting to see, like, you know, a lot of these charter schools are probably not the best place to put their kids. And again, that's probably more of my personal opinion than anything, but I'm speaking from experience and speaking from all the research and stuff that I've done. The lack of compliance, this one could be broken up in so many different things and probably so many different videos. So when I talk about compliance, I'm talking about, why are you accepting kids with special needs if you cannot take care of these children with special needs? A majority of charter schools that I've worked with anyway, and from what I see via research and hearing other people's stories, a majority of these charter schools are not equipped to handle children with IEPs or anything under that umbrella. They are struggling to maintain compliance.
They don't want your special needs kids at their school because typically they use general education students' data as the bulk to justify the renewal of their charter. Second, they don't want your special needs kids there because it pulls away from support staff that they prefer to allocate towards the general education population because that is the majority of the population. And again, they need student data as a whole in the school to be performing well, so they get the renewal of their charter every 5 years. I've also been told and have seen admin tell their special educators, and when I was a special educator, to lie about the students' data so it looks like they are progressing. Because, quote, no one's going to question progress in a special needs kid, right? Toxic, 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 toxic.
If you're thinking about putting your special needs child in a charter school, there's a few things you need to know. Charter schools are mandated to follow federal regulations as part of IDEA, so your child's IEP will still be valid in a charter school. The one thing that's a little different between a charter school and a public school is that charter schools, where they are still state schools, have to submit a personal charter to the state for approval. This means that they can put little differences in between how their school functions and how a public school functions and still have it be approved by the state. Again, none of these can go against federal regulations. However, it does mean that if you're looking for certain accommodations or ways that the school functions, it might be a little different than how a public school functions, and this could affect your rights. This is not to deter you if you're trying to get your child into a charter school and you would prefer that over a public school. It just means that you might have to do a little bit more legwork. Another thing is that charter schools rely solely on their enrollment for survival. And as we know, enrollment relies on high numbers. Charter schools want their academic statistics to look really good. Sometimes this causes charter schools to try and push out students with IEPs or special needs that might pull those numbers down. Now, this is not all charter schools. I think some charter schools are fantastic, but it's just a warning that there are charter schools that will function in this way. And again, their charter has been approved by the state, so as long as they're working within their charter, then they're working as a state-approved school. And this could potentially work against your special needs child. That is all to say that if you're thinking about enrolling your child in a charter school versus a public school, you just want to make sure that you do your work and look at their charter. These are all public knowledge. They're available on the website of your state. It might just require a little digging and a little hard work.
We filed a lawsuit against my son's school 2.5 years ago. It is still in the court system. About 2 weeks ago, the founder and director of the school was fired for fraud. And about a week ago, a criminal investigation was opened up to look into embezzlement charges. Back when we filed this lawsuit, a fellow parent at the school told me, "I hope you lose your lawsuit because of what it could mean for the school." That same parent is now one of the administrators of a group of Parents for Change at this school, a group that contains both present and past parents of the school. But I was denied entry to because they're trying to improve the school, not destroy it. And apparently, filing a lawsuit to fight discrimination of disabled children is trying to destroy the school. Fighting for disabled children to be educated equally is trying to destroy the school. Trying to ensure that a school that takes federal funds to educate children with disabilities actually uses those funds to educate children with disabilities is destroying the school.
And your child has an IEP coming from charter school to public school. Please review your IEPs, because I see IEPs of children coming from charter to public and they are terrible. Labeled, yes, I'm using that term on purpose, as a classification that they are not, so that the charters don't have the capacity to deal with them. Then you have errors in placement because of those classifications and determination of placements. I get a second opinion. Get a second, third, fourth opinion. Even if you have a friend that is a special educator or a friend that is an admin in some type of special ed capacity, because I continue to see these IEPs coming from charter school, going back to public school or going to public school. And they are terrible. They are the definition of propaganda. Educational propaganda.
It makes me so angry because these kids deserve more. These kids are diagnosed and need help. And unfortunately, they're not getting the help that they need, but the schools are keeping them for a check. They're keeping them for numbers. Each child in that seat is money for them. So it doesn't matter if they're not getting the para that they need, if they're not getting the right plans, if they don't have a social worker on site. It doesn't matter to them.
All right, so short story. This happened at the Newark charter that I was working at. I actually told this story on my Instagram recently, right? So long story short, the kids had no IEP support to the extent where literally a majority of those kids were supposed to have paras. And when they came to renew the charter, they were doing like certain inspections and stuff. They went as far as to hire a substitute company to sit in as paras for these kids. Instead of getting them the help they need, instead of getting them paras and actual support, they went and paid substitutes for the day to come in and act like paras for the kids. They didn't know the kids' names. They didn't know what they were doing. They were just there. And they literally were like, "Oh yeah, sorry, we're just here. They told us to come here, you know, whatever." Like, and I'm like, I was so confused. I come into my class and I'm looking at these random adults. It was like 3 or 4 of them. And they're like, "Yeah, we're just here. They told me to come for, what's the name? Alicia?" I'm like, "Alea? Like, you don't even know the kids that you're in here for. Like, that shit was so crazy to me. And apparently, not even apparently, they never came back. There was never any pairs assigned. There was never a social worker on site at all. I remember I had a friend in the fellowship that was with me, and she was, you know, her major and her background was psychology. She was like, you know what? If possible, would I be able to be the social worker? I already have the credentials for that. And they were like, no, we don't have that in the school. Stop sending your kids to these schools, bro. You're harming them in more ways than one.
They just see it as, oh, well, we'll figure it out, or they're passing though. And that's another thing when it goes under compliance. A lot of these kids' grades are not these kids' grades. A lot of the times admin is going in and changing these grades in order to boost scores, to boost revenue for these schools. This is something that I feel like really needs to be talked about because I think it goes unchecked a lot. A lot of these grades, okay, first of all, the grading skills are really skewed for charters. In general, it's gone down a lot across the nation for all schools. But in general, for charters, it's in hell. Like, I'll never forget, I was giving my kids zeros because they weren't doing shit. They were just coming to class and going to sleep, or coming to class, putting their backpack down and walking out. So I was giving them zeros. And one of these kids gonna say, well, you can't give me a zero. The lowest you could give me is a 60. I said, excuse me? Yeah, you didn't know that? Like, in this school, we get 60s. And I fact checked it. And yeah, apparently there's no such thing as zeros. It's only 60s. Bitch, if you're not dancing, you're getting a zero. I'm not putting no fucking 60 in your shit. Like, a zero is a zero because you earned a zero. Like, and the thing is with me, I've always been chill when it comes to the dance thing. I never want to force dance on children because that's why I didn't like it as a child. And that's why I forged my own path with dance, because I didn't like niggas telling me what to do. And I didn't like people forcing me to do shit that I didn't like. I didn't like the music. I didn't like this. I didn't like that. And y'all making me do it. I don't like that. So I've never forced kids to dance, but I would tell them, listen, you got to do some sort of movement. So they would do the warm up, the cool down, and whatever activity, but they were not forced to dance. If you did at least those three things, you'd probably get at least a 70 to 75 in my class. I would not give you a zero. If you come in my class and you sleep, it's clip. I'm not doing that shit with you, right? So it's like, I'm supposed to give you a 60 for doing bare minimum? Go to hell. Absolutely not. I did witness these people change my grades numerous times for numerous kids. I don't have time for this shit, okay? Another time, a dean was talking to me. I don't know what I'm gonna do. The senior years are graduating this year and there's no grades. All the grades have been wiped out because they've had a different rotation of teachers and I don't know what to do. I'm just looking at her like, bro, how you don't have grades for kids that are graduating? So I'm very sure they made those grades up in thin air. I didn't end up staying there. That was the Newark charter that I talked about on my channel. I'm gonna try to link everything down below that I'm referencing in this. It's just like the lack of, like, they just be doing what the fuck they want. They just be skating. Okay, they do the bare minimum to just keep getting those charters renewed, but a majority of them literally don't do anything. That's why the kids can't read, can't write, can't do anything for themselves. Not only are the parents dropping the ball, but the school has dropped the ball as well. The lack of discipline in these schools pisses me off more than anything. I can't stand when someone brings this up and a charter school advocate will be like, well, maybe it was you. You have lack of classroom management. Almost every time somebody comments some dumb shit like that on any of my posts, I know for a fact they're admin and they are part of the problem and they're the people that I speak of. A majority of the time, it has nothing to do with classroom management and everything to do with the follow through. If I start off a class and I tell the kids, hey, if you continuously talk in my class, you're going to have to spend time in the calm corner, or you're going to get sent to the principal's office, or you're going to not get your special treat for the day, and they still continue to do it. And then I do that consequence and you as an admin step in and be like, no, that's fine. You can do whatever. Or no, I'm not going to call your mom. Or no, you don't have to sit in my office. It's going to tell that child that they can do anything. Okay, I think it's very simple. I think it's common sense. But for those of you guys who don't understand and like to blame the fact that teachers are quitting and people keep talking about this as, oh, well, maybe it was you, maybe it was lack of classroom management. There's nothing I can do if there's no follow through. If I'm threatening a call home via the principal and you're not making that call, be so fucking for real. If I'm making a call and the parent don't care, what the fuck do you want me to do? Like, it comes to a point. Like, I just don't understand why people are not understanding this. It is extremely exhausting to have a passion for children or a passion for teaching or truly, like children. And then you're met with this lack of follow through from your admin that's supposed to be helping you teach and help these children grow. So to be honest, right, a lot of teachers are quitting because these schools treat teachers like garbage. And then they want these teachers to work miracles with no materials, no support, no resources. And then they get mad when we complain, when we bring up
things that we're going through. It's the most bizarre thing I've ever seen in my life. It's one thing to treat people like garbage, right? Treat your employees like garbage, but it's like teachers are the backbone of a school. Okay, teachers, without your teachers, you don't have a school. And y'all be treating these teachers like they're fucking slaves. You treat the kids like garbage. You treat the parents like garbage. It's like, I don't know, to be honest, who these schools serve, especially these charters, because they really just treat everyone like garbage. And it's sad. Like, the teacher shortage could be in its entire, I feel like I did make a video about that, or maybe not, but whatever. If I made one, I can make a follow-up, whatever. Let me know if you guys want to hear about it, because there's a lot that goes into it. It's not just, oh, teachers are quitting. Like, everything is different and there's no support, and no one is about to sit here and put themselves through hell when they don't have to, when there's better options out there.
When I say it's a reason why there's a teacher shortage right now, if there even still is one or whatever, like, it's for reasons. Like, it is genuinely for reasons. Between the kids not being students, the parents not being present, and no support from the administration, it is reasons why teachers are hauling ass and running. Like, seriously, as a substitute, as a long-term substitute, I'm burnt out. I see why I had to step in at April and finish the school year. I see why the teacher had to quit in the middle of the school year and couldn't finish. Because as a substitute, I've been working in this class since April. It's now mid-May, and I'm ready to cancel the assignment and say I'm done too. Like, it's the lack of support is frustrating. It's scary. It's sad. Every single day, I have to call home and let a parent know that your son is fighting, your daughter's cussing, biting, flipping tables, chairs, everything. And you get upset at me, like, why you keep calling me at work? What am I supposed to do when I'm at work? What am I supposed to do? Okay, so let me not keep getting cussed out about the parents, because obviously the parents don't want to hear that their child's acting up. Let me see if I can get support from administration. You tell administration multiple times, again and again and again, this is what's happening, this is what's happening, this is what's happening, and they do nothing. They pull the kid out for a second, send them back in there maybe 5 minutes later with a sticker or some juice. It's not funny. This is really reality right now. This is really reality. With everything that's going on in the world, with everything that's going on in the States, we need teachers. We need people who want to genuinely educate, uplift, and protect children. We need those people. You guys aren't valuing us. You're not protecting those people. It's sad. It's so sad. Like, as a teacher, I feel like you shouldn't get burnt out being in the classroom in a month. I've been working in various roles in education since 2016. I am true to this. From being a lead teacher to a sub to a long-term sub, from being a para, like, I am true to this. In every role I've worked, the problem is, and it's getting progressively worse, since 2016 to now, it's always been lack of support from parents and administration. From 2016 until now, it has gotten progressively worse. What's-up?
I was fired. You want to know why I was fired? I was fired because a child spit on my co-teacher. They kicked me twice, and they threw wood chips in my face. And so while I was trying to pick up the child, they said that I mishandled the child, as if I just threw her this way, threw her that way. I picked her up, and as I picked her up, she snatched her arm, and they said that I was holding her by one arm, as if I was just holding her like a baby doll up in the air. I was not doing that. I picked her up. This child is very defiant. She doesn't listen when she doesn't want to listen. We're on the playground. My co-teacher, I think she was throwing mulch, and she told her to stop throwing mulch. She wouldn't stop throwing the mulch, so she picked her up and she brought her over there where I was. So when she brought her over there where I was, she fell out on the ground and she started throwing mulch at me. So I'm like, stop throwing the mulch. She's still throwing the mulch. So when I get down to try to stop her from throwing the mulch, she throws mulch in my face. And then she kicks me twice. I still have the footprints on my clothes. She kicked me twice. Not once, but 2 times. So I called Code Red on the walkie-talkie. And I try to pick her up. I pick her up. I really pick her up 3 times, but you can only see 2 on the camera. So I picked her up 1 time, and then she dropped down. I picked her up again. She snatched her arm, and then they somehow I was holding her by 1 arm. So that's when I put my stuff down, because I had my clipboard and my things in my arm. I put it down, and I picked her up again. That's when another person came out, and she grabbed her. This is the second tantrum that child had today. Now, that morning, that child was in the classroom, and my co-teacher, had asked her to do something. She didn't want to do it, so she had a tantrum. She took her shoes and socks off. She threw them across the classroom. This is every day.
Make sure this blow up, because I just lost my job for this shit. If you already don't like the school district, then perfect, you here. I'm about to tell you how I got fired and why I got fired today. So I was an aide in a classroom, a licensed paraprofessional aide at a school that I worked at. And it was cool. I've been there for 4 months. This would have been my 4th month. It was cool. It was a nice job. I love the students there. They treated me like an older brother because I'm closer to the age. And they loved me. Cool. So the situation that happened, I stopped one of my students from getting assaulted by the teacher, right? And this is a crazy thing. And this is making me lose faith in the system, because the reason I got fired is crazy. The student opened the door. One of them sits down, and the other's like, "Why do we gotta watch this?" And the teacher says, "Shut up and watch the SEL. I'm not tolerating it." And he's like, the student's like, "I'm not watching that effing SEL." And the teacher got up. He's like, "I'm tired of it. I'm done." And he grabbed the student and he pushed him out the classroom. That's already red flag number one. Okay, cool. Now the student's getting mad outside. I hug him like, "You cool, bro? You cool? You got me here. I'll go grab your stuff and we can walk around or something like that, right?" As I should. I grab his backpack. I grab his food, and we walk to go warm up his food in the teacher's lounge. I warmed up. We bring it back, and he's eating. Now, one of my other students at the time, I got sent outside because the teacher wanted to be alone. He came to me, and then one of my other students came to me from his gen ed class, and we're all just sitting there sitting there inside of the pod. We're talking, we're laughing. I'm raising up their moods because I don't like when my students are sad. And there's like, the teacher's on one. He's being so mean today. He's being rude. He's cussing me out. He called student C a bitch and a pussy. He called student F a dumbass and a retard. I'm like, whoa. He was like, "I thought I told you to go outside, student A." And then he was like, "My fault." And then he sent the student A outside. And then student B, he was like, "Go back to class, student B." And then student C, he was like, "Student C, come back inside and watch the SEL." And he's like, student got up, he's like, "I'm not watching that SEL. I've been doing work all day. That's not fair. The other kids get to go outside." He's rightfully upset, and that's cool. So now the teacher is getting aggravated. Now they're starting to insult each other. The student said something to the teacher, and the teacher said something back. Sorry, my cat. Teacher said something back. Now they're going back and forth with profanities. And now the student said, "Fuck your mom," and the student said, "Fuck your grandma, bitch." I'm like, whoa. Dang. Okay, so now I'm trying to mediate. Me and the other aide in the classroom are trying to mediate. We're pushing it back. I'm bringing the student. I'm like, "Okay, let's just go to the room 23. Let's just go over here." But the teacher's following because the student then threw muffins at the teacher. Right? But they missed. He hit him. He missed. And the teacher got aggravated. Like, I grew up in an interesting place, so I know what it looks like when a man's about to hit another man. He balled up his fist. This tall 6'3" guy walking towards the student, right? Aggravated. And now the student's backing up. He's like scared. I'm seeing it on his face. He's scared. He's backing up. And the teacher, I'm trying to hold him back. I'm still only 19, right? And this is like a full-grown man. He has a lawyer's degree and everything. Full-grown man, 6'3". He's chasing this kid, and the kid backs up into a corner on the bathroom wall. He grabs him like this, and like he's holding him like this. He's like he's twisting his arm. I'm watching his bone contort and pop. I'm like, "Yo, calm down. You're hurting him." And he's like, "You're hurting my arm. Let go. You're hurting me. Loosen." He's not listening. He's dragging him. He's pushing him like this. And then he gets to the room and he slams him on the wall next to the door, opens the door, and then throws him in there and then throws the muffins on him. What? Yo, that was insane to me. That was the first time in my life I ever seen something like that. And I don't care what anybody says. I read the CPI training book and everything. That is not a restraining technique. You're only supposed to restrain the students if they're disobeying and trying to harm another student, trying to harm themselves, or anything in between those lines. That wasn't restraint. The kid's walking away from you. He's running. He's scared. That's not a reason to restrain.
So when I was student teaching, my mentor teacher said, "Do not work for a charter school." I ended up getting hired by a charter school, fresh out of school, and this is just my experience, but I got hired by NHA. NHA is the largest charter in the United States, and I had a horrible experience, completely overworked, completely underpaid. I had to go in the summer and paint my own classroom. So it was wild, and like the expectations that you had to do. Staying till 8 o'clock at night was the norm. Going in on Saturdays was the norm. Getting there 2 hours early every morning was the norm. And they completely screwed me over because they said that, because I told them in March, I was like, "I'm out. Like, I don't want to be here. I'm leaving." So to get your summer pay, you have to be in good standing. That's in this like fine print. And they said I wasn't in good standing because all of a sudden I was like on an improvement plan and everything. So I didn't get my summer pay. I didn't get my full salary amount. It was horrendous, and it's my fault for not reading the fine print, but I would never go back to a charter school just based off that. It left such a bad taste in my mouth.
Now that I work at a pretty good school, I look back to my old charter school I worked at and just think the amount of shit that they got away with and that people just blindly follow. First of all, that school is a cult. But the amount of stuff that they did to me, looking back, I'm like, this is not okay. So I'm going to go through some examples. I mentioned this before, but they took away my classroom and basically made it an office for the special education coordinator, who we didn't have because she quit, the lower school special education coordinator, and the 2 504 coordinators, which were my friends. Anyways, but because of that, the special education department in the upper school had no classroom, so we had to bounce around from room to room, and this one lab classroom moved, and the math interventionist, that's not a real job, but it's basically RTI, took the classroom and was like, "Well, what do you need it for?" To teach these kids how to write. because they can't really do that. And then we would just be in the gallery, which were the tables, and we get so loud, and then they would get so distracted. I did not do my job that well, like my last 2 months there, because I gave up.
This teacher's video went really viral after she uploaded it when she came back from summer break and her classroom was filled with mold. The walls, the chairs, everything was filled with mold. And she was extremely upset about this because she says it comes out of her own pocket. The teachers pay for this themselves.
Happy day one of classroom setup, except my entire room is covered with mold and everything is ruined. So for context, everything was completely covered. My chair, my ottoman, things that I've spent so much of my money on, people have spent money on for my classroom. All of these picture frames had to come down because there was mold tucked behind chairs in the desks, all of my posters in my cabinets, and even all of my books that I've taken such pride in to keep neat all year, warped and mold. So this is the reason nobody gets into education, because a lot of people were asking why was that video deleted, and I can tell you exactly why, because that is not going to be taken care of before your kids go back to school. If you think they have time to get mold out of the walls and foundation of everything in this school before school starts back, absolutely not. I really hope this girl did not get fired, though, for coming to the internet and posting her frustration. I know that somebody that she knew took that and sent it into her district in hopes of getting her in trouble is really ridiculous. She cares about the children, and of course she cares about the money well spent on other kids. I pray to God this teacher is okay and that this classroom and school is fixed. It is just one of the main problems in America today.
Unfortunately, a lot of times it just feels like these kids are able to get away with any and everything, both at home and at school. And that's why a lot of the teachers are leaving, because it's like, what do you need me here for? Like, if you're just going to trump over my rules, right? You're going to do what you want. You're going to say what you want, and you're going to let these kids do whatever they want. There's no reason that they need a teacher. And it's absolutely correct. That's why I would never blame a teacher for leaving. I would never blame the mass exodus of teachers on anything, but the fact that a lot of the times it's the admin and it is the parents. It's almost never the kids, because at the end of the day, the kids are lovely. Even when they're annoying as fuck, the kids are lovely. And it's not their fault. They're children. Their brains are not fully developed. Although I understand that a majority of kids, they know exactly what they're doing. Like when it comes to the older ones, like the high school, like when you're like 17, 18, you know exactly what the fuck you're doing. I'm sorry. Like your brain's not developed, but you know what you're doing. You may not understand the consequences, but you know what you're doing. With the younger children, it's like, you know what? They don't truly understand. And I think that it needs to be understood that there's nothing you can do when kids are not behaving and you are setting up consequences and trying to instill discipline and it's not being followed through. The unprofessionalism and just blatant disrespect and disorganization and disregard for children's growth in charter schools is honestly what pisses me off the most, because it really doesn't need to be that difficult. Personally, I could never understand why a lot of these people just do what they want. I'd be trying to understand where the disorganization stems from. Is it the CEO? Is it somebody under? Is it the individual schools? Because almost all of them have the same exact issue, especially as it pertains to New York and New Jersey. Same exact cookie cutter problems that are very easily avoided. The only one that really can't be avoided is the understaffing, okay? But everything else, for the most part, it's like, okay, you know what? This could be mitigated. Poor planning is almost always the excuse for something, but then they try to sugarcoat shit like, oh, well, you know, we have to pivot. You know, sometimes things change last minute. No, nigga, you need to plan. I've never, ever in my life been at or worked at any school that had rotating schedules, okay? Schedules where the kids would just not have a class one day or just skip a period because this, that is happening. That does not happen in public schools like that. When you get your schedule in a public school, it is your schedule for that trimester, semester, that year. It's not changing because, oh, we have a speaker coming, so we can't have fifth period. Oh, well, we had a fire drill yesterday, so now we're going to have ninth period, first period. My bad, your schedule is fucked up. I'm going to take 3 weeks to fix it. I've witnessed so many crazy ass schedule changes with a lot of these schools. How the hell do you expect these kids to learn anything? We keep saying these kids have mental health issues and they need extra help and they need extra attention. Meanwhile, we're dealing with deregulated children and deregulated schedules and deregulated systems. Maybe we should regulate it and that will resolve half the issue. Most of these kids have ADHD, defiance disorders. We're expecting them to, at the drop of a hat, be malleable to different schedules. They're babies. A lot of them do have mental health issues. And then it's chaotic. You have them in a chaotic environment for the what? The lack of follow through and discipline be really pissing me off, because like, I can't tell you how many charter schools I've been at where there was a uniform, but the uniform wasn't even really a uniform. It'd be like, say if the colors were red and gold and it's like, oh yeah, we don't have to wear a uniform. We just got to wear a red shirt and gold pants or like khaki pants and that's it. And doesn't necessarily have to be a uniform. I don't get it. I don't think these people understand. I don't think these charter schools be understanding they're setting the precedent for these kids to in the future be like, oh, well, it doesn't matter that my boss or my parent or someone above me or in charge of me tells me one thing. As long as I do something close to it, as long as I do a little something, then I can get away with it. That's what they're teaching these kids. Kids' brains are very malleable, right? They absorb everything, and every little thing counts. As small as a lot of these things that I've mentioned in this video is, it's a huge deal and it's a huge problem. And it's part of the reason a majority of children in this nation cannot read, write, or do anything. It all comes full circle. It's not just, oh, they're not being taught. It's not just, oh, they're not being reinforced. It's the fact that all of these systems work together to destabilize these children. All in all, I feel like it's detrimental to these kids and they truly do not deserve that. I'm of the opinion that honestly, these charter schools, a majority of them were put here to destabilize Black and brown children because a majority of these charter schools are in Black and brown neighborhoods. And I think this is a school to prison pipeline situation. Like, I think it's an easy way to funnel these kids into a system because it's just so blatantly obvious at this point. All these schools do the same thing, all have the same issues, all pertain to the same demographic. People have been talking about this for so damn long and nothing gets done about it. Why? Because it's Black kids, it's Hispanic kids, it's Indian kids, because it's Black and brown children. No one gives a fuck about Black and brown children. Make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe. Let me know what you guys think down below. If you made it to the end of this video, comment a school emoji. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you guys for always supporting me. If you're a patron or investor, I appreciate you more than anything. And if you guys would like to check out my other channels, everything you need is going to be linked down below or in the QR code on your screen. Make sure you guys follow me on Instagram and follow the nonprofit. I appreciate all of you guys who have donated to LakayRo. Thank you so much. Y'all gonna see me in the next video. Bye!